hey.
Welcome to our first episode of the Chronicles of the Phoenix, or first full episode, I should say. Today we wanted to just give a little bit of an introduction of what we plan to talk about on our show, and more so have you get to know us as your hosts. So I'm Courtney.
And I'm Erin.
And hopefully you've listened to our shorter intro before, where we kind of go over what our hope is for our listeners and what we hope you get from this. But today is just a chance for you to hear us ask each other questions and understand a bit about our own personal journeys, the origin of our podcast and why we're doing this, and just other fun stuff you might want to know.
Yeah. So Courtney, to kick us off, what are the most important parts of your identity and why?
This is a great question.
Also,
I would say the most important parts of my identity, I'm a mom. I have a 12-year-old son.
Mhm.
So that is a big part of my identity. And I also am married. I have a husband. And yeah, I think those two roles are super important in my life.
Mhm.
Outside of that, though, I definitely love that I'm a musician, which is a big part of my life. And I'm also a therapist and then co-owners of our cool company.
I love that too.
So I feel like those things, are on the surface, like the major parts of my identity that shape who I am.
Sounds right.
Yeah.
Cool.
How about for you? What would you say are your most important parts of your identity?
Actually, I was thinking about this a lot recently. Certainly being a mom is one of the most important things to me. And I feel like that's the thing that if I mess that up, I feel the worst about, to be honest with you. That feels the most important to me. I feel like we have, I have a daughter and a son, and I feel like if I screw that up, it has the biggest ramifications, at least for, me. And then as a social worker, and therapist, a wife, a sister, and, in this work together with you. I also really value social justice and how I show up in the world and making sure that I'm committed to always making this world a better place.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I'm sure we'll get to talk about a lot of those things as we continue on with our pod down the line, but I think those are all beautiful things about you.
Thank you. What's a defining moment that shaped who you are today?
Whoa, that's a deep one.
Okay, we're just going right there right away.
Yeah, I feel like we should. I didn't do a lot of prep for this. This is one of the things I will say is I like to kind of wing things, even though I'm not as fast as you at doing that. But I do find that if I just come up with something that is important in the moment, I don't overthink it too much. So I didn't think about this ahead of time.
Do you want me to go?
You go.
Give you more time?
I do. You go first.
Because this one's easy for me.
I love it. Go for it.
So this is going to get really deep and a little sad, but a defining moment that absolutely shaped who I am today. There's a lot of them, but the one that I definitely think shaped me was the loss of my twins. Who were preterm labor, and it absolutely shaped who I am as a mom, who I am as a therapist, who I am as a leader, who I am as a friend, as a wife. I think it taught me how precious life is, and how important it is to show up every day and make the best of it. Yeah, so I think it made me learn how to grieve in a way that I'd never known. I think it was it was the most significant loss of my adult life. And so I really had to dig deep and learn how to grieve and how to lean into that. And it prepared me for other significant losses going forward. So it definitely shaped who I am going forward.
Yeah, I'd imagine. And I think that is like when we think of what brings us sort of into this like next phase of our life sometimes, and we don't necessarily expect that, and then we're there, and those things are important, heavy, but they also shape us and kind of help us take a path sometimes we didn't even expect, probably.
I think it's when I first really became a grown-up.
Yeah. Well, you've had to.
Yeah.
That's how that goes when we experience something like that, for sure. Yeah. No, thank you for sharing that. I think for me, what I would say for this is I think it was harder for me to think about because it's sort of newer in my life, but I, for a variety of reasons, made the decision to stop drinking a few years ago. So it's been like 4 years now. And I think I'm still understanding what that means for me and like how it's shaping me. It still shapes me, I think, almost in a different way all the time. So it's not something that I feel like I have a great deal of separation from, that I'm like, oh, this changed everything. But I do see already at this point the changes that I've experienced, the impact on my life. And it's allowed me really to get to know myself in this very different way than I had before. I think as a person, I can definitely sort of get swept into things that are easily, you know, assist us in like checking out, kind of numbing out stuff. Like I find that historically I was somebody who, would work really hard or push myself sort of to the limit and then want to just like completely have like a crash at the end of my night where I'm just like completely calm and like, and it was sort of this very all or nothing process for me. And that's not just like through drinking or anything like that, but it was just something that it's a pattern I noticed for myself. And so when I remove that and sort of this vehicle to like, oh, something to look forward to, but also something to bring this relaxation into my life. And then, secondarily, this thing that was helping me avoid looking at things and, noticing things or feeling things. The further I get from that, the more, colorful life is, the more I have had to also deal with difficult things and recognize that it's important to process. So I would say that is going to be my answer for that.
I love that. And I think it takes so much courage to do that in the society that, and we've talked a lot about that is our socialization, is going out for drinks or happy hours and stuff like that, especially when, you didn't define it necessarily and it wasn't like problematic for you in the moment, but still to recognize that it wasn't serving you.
Yeah.
So I think that takes a lot of courage to do that.
Thanks. Yeah, it definitely, it's definitely a difficult journey, I think, for a lot of people, for that same reason. But I also, it definitely certainly helps in social situations and things like that. And it's not as comfortable. So you lose a lot of that. But I think it definitely has more benefits than not in the end, which is cool to see. So,
and there seems to be more of a trend of people moving in that direction. So
I think people are building awareness around like how it actually feels and what it does to your body and all the things. We could talk forever, but
good. Maybe we will one day.
We will.
Yeah. What's something that people often misunderstand about you?
Well, I think people misunderstand my kind of kindness and sweetness as like maybe saying that I'm not, that I don't have maybe a feisty side about me, or like that because I am very people focused and like relationship focused and definitely lean towards trying to keep the peace a lot of the time, that means that maybe I don't get angry about things, or my feelings tend to stay in that more positive space, I think. And not that that's not true a lot of the time, but I definitely think that there are sides to me that are misunderstood because I don't show them as much, I guess, is how I would say that. I don't know.
Makes sense.
Yeah. What do you think people misunderstand about you?
So at first I was like, I'm an open book. I don't know that anybody misunderstands things about me. But then I was like, that's not actually true. I think that a mask that I wear is extreme confidence. I walk into a room sort of like, here I am. I am silly, and I use my sense of humor to deflect when I'm uncomfortable. And I think people mistake sometimes my bravado and humor as comfort and confidence when actually I am feeling insecure and at times hurt by people's jabs, or and so people might feel like they can hit me in certain ways because they don't think anything bothers me, when in fact I'm actually more sensitive than it appears.
Yeah. And I could see that because you do come off as very confident. And yeah, I know we've talked a lot about that, like what the cost of that is sometimes in terms of how people perceive that, and then probably have much more comfort with like brutal honesty around you that maybe doesn't always feel great. I'm sure. Yeah, that makes a ton of sense. So yeah, I like how you said that too about like what you're masking, because that helped me understand sort of what I was trying to talk about too, is that there's this active process of trying to come across as like accommodating and nice and sure, and I'll say yes to that. And I think that's maybe more what I was leaning towards, is just that gets misunderstood for like, I'm just going to be fine with everything and I'm not going to argue or push back, or like I'll be agreeable, I'll say yes to whatever people ask me to do. And so that helped me understand that.
Well, and the funny thing is that people as a child, people often thought that my confidence meant that I was a good fighter.
Oh, okay.
And back in the day would think that challenging me to duels was the way to go.
Physical duels?
Physical duels.
Wow.
It only happened twice, but it was really funny.
Did you win?
Well, one time my sister said, "Don't hurt my sister," and then she sent my husky out to run after me, or to run after her, but my husky doesn't actually fight anyone either, and so she ran away and up the hill to chase rabbits, and her neighbor chased the person away, who was on a bike with a chain saying "friend or foe." So
oh my gosh,
it wasn't really a fight. Springfield, Mass was a little rough.
I've heard.
Yeah,
I hear as much. Yeah, that doesn't sound fun. But I loved your sister's voice too.
she will love that I shared that too.
I'm sure she will. Also, I should add, because you said this in your identity, and I am also a sister. I should probably say that. I didn't add that. I do have a sister and am a sister. So
we're going to switch now to our origin story and share a little bit more about us. So, Court, do you want to share a little bit about what inspired us to start this podcast?
Yeah, and feel free to tag in, because I feel like this was sort of a joint decision, and I think it might have even been your idea first, to be honest. So I don't know. Do you have a thought about? I feel like it was.
Well, I mean, I guess I feel like community, that's part of maybe the connector in me, and always wanting to figure out the best way to reach as many people as I can. And I love systems building and community and connecting. And I love sort of the Me Too aspect of being able to share something and have other people resonate with it and say, "Oh, I feel seen. Finally, I felt so alone in that moment, and now I don't feel so alone anymore." And so I just thought that a podcast, and you and I have so much fun together, and we laugh. And so I thought that this would be a way that we could connect with the community and share some things and thoughts that we have through our journey with therapy and leadership and all kinds of other random things that we find meaningful, funny, whatever.
Yeah.
Through our journey, that we could share, that could create connection and community with people around us, that subscribers that choose to listen.
Yeah.
I think that's where it started. And it would be fun, and I like to try new things.
Oh, obviously. Yes. That makes a ton of sense. Yeah. No, I loved when you had the idea, and I remember, much like everything in my mind, I feel like you are such an ideas person and you're like, what about this? Let's try it. What do you think? And I was like, oh my gosh, I don't know. What's it going to be like? And then I immediately went into like, let's get this equipment and let's do like, how is this actually going to work in practice? But I love whenever you bring that energy because it's usually the best idea to do
Aww.
something like that. So, but yeah, no, I think that was definitely a big part of the inspiration. And then once you told me about it, I was like, obviously, this makes so much sense. So cool.
Yeah. Why the theme and why now?
So our podcast, as you know, is called Chronicles of the Phoenix. And over this last year, the image of the phoenix has been really powerful. I think the whole concept of a phoenix and rising from the ashes and sort of like burning it all down and then like rebirth, right? And that is such a difficult but beautiful process at the same time. And then also just makes room for something we probably never imagined. And so I think that quickly defined a lot of this past year as we, each took on different things career-wise, started our business together, and our business is called Phoenix Rise Consulting. So that was sort of the imagery we had for that. So it made sense to weave that in. And so that's sort of the theme that for me is important. And the why is really just that it felt like a true kind of concept to capture what it's like to make a huge change and just lean into that and really like not look back in a way, right? You can't just like change that once it happens. And so I think that part of it has been a big motivator and inspiration for this. And then why now? I think much like you said with what inspired us, like I think it's a great opportunity for us to get to process things together, get to share that, and hopefully find some folks who might connect in with what we're talking about, meet some new people who also will join us at some point to talk about their perspectives on things. And honestly, I think it's also going to be a great outlet for us. Honestly,
Yeah.
I think there's a lot going on right now all around us everywhere, and especially in our country. And there's just a lot of pressure and stress and tons of emotion. And I think having a space to not only process that aloud with you, but also for us to bring topics that could be interesting to people, our own insights and the work we've done, it feels like the right time to sort of try to build community around that.
I totally agree. And I love what you said about not looking back. And sort of that's the piece of building something new and rising through the ashes to this beautiful creature. And I feel like, I had always envisioned myself as growing really old with a walker at my former agency. Needing to be carried out of there to the funeral home.
Maybe having a funeral like
maybe having
the office.
In the office.
That could have been a thought, yeah.
And a lot of that was fear-based.
Sure.
Because I wanted the security of the steady income. It was what I knew. It was what I was comfortable with. Even though I am somewhat of a risk taker, I love new things. I don't, and within the organization, I was always able to innovate and do new things, but it was within the walls. It was still safe. And through this breaking down and building up, I am creating with you the opportunity to do all kinds of new and exciting different things, including like website design and podcasts and stuff like that. So
yeah,
I feel like that's a huge part of the why.
Yeah. No, that's exactly it. And I think that, yeah, moving out of this like place of safety into the unknown in a way, but then also going so far with it that it's like, yeah, there's only like a new path forward ahead of you at this point. And I think that's pretty cool.
Sky's the limit. So we would love to know from other people, like, what skills can you bring us? We want to learn.
Yep, absolutely. All right.
What's your background and how does it influence your approach to this podcast?
So I said a little bit about it in the identity piece, but in terms of my background, I guess I'm thinking of this from a career perspective right now for my professional background. I am a trained social worker. So previous to starting this podcast, have worked in the field of social work for 15 years. I have a master's in social work, and I have always felt really strongly about working closely with people and helping people. And, I know that sounds a little cliche, but really, like, just from this young age, I felt drawn to something. I always wanted to either be like a doctor and I didn't love science. And, as I went through things when I was young in school, like peer advocate stuff and like mentoring, things like that, I just found it to be so exciting. And just participating in activities that help people get to know each other more. And like, I always remember being drawn to that. And so pretty quickly I discovered, that I'd want to work as a therapist with people. And so I did that out of grad school for a while. And then, rose into leadership positions in my past job. And so I kind of got away from doing a lot of direct work with people like in need of support. Not that working with staff and leading them wasn't a big part of my journey, which absolutely impacted me and is a big part of, I think, what we're doing going forward and the strength we have with that. But I think in terms of what my background does to influence my approach, I'm just really interested in continuing to break things down and understand like how things work, why they work the way that they do, why we all bring what we bring into our life, into this world, and, how we can keep growing and changing. That's what I think.
Totally. Also, as a clinical social worker who stumbled into it in part, I always thought I wanted to be a pediatrician until I felt like maybe med school was too hard to get into. And then 2 weeks of chemistry, I was like, absolutely not. And changed my major.
It's really hard, isn't it?
Oh,
why does
it's not?
I don't know why I thought I'd like it.
No, but also love talking to people and helping people and all of that stuff. So, ended up landing here, and it's been the best decision of my life because it has made me a very introspective person who I have had to do a lot of my own work to understand. And, as therapists and leaders, you have to do your own work because you're the instrument of your craft in order to be effective. And so I've had to do a lot of my own work in order to be good at my jobs.
Sure.
In the different roles that I'm in. And I'm really grateful for that. So, and I'm also at this point right now where I'm trying different things. I just took on a role as an adjunct professor for an MSW class, which is really cool. I've never done that before, but it's been a goal of mine. And then this and stuff. So I think that I'm a insanely curious person. I love to understand why things are happening. I love to understand patterns of behavior. And I really love to get to know people and on a intimate level and just, be in their presence and so connection. And I think that, sense of wonder is something that I'll bring to this and that maybe my background influences. I also am one of 5, and in my position, I think one of my roles was to just be a distractor and very silly. So I hope to bring some fun and levity.
I think you will.
I hope so.
I know you will.
I know.
I know you will.
I'm trying in the beginning to not bring colorful language and inappropriate language. Can't guarantee that will always be the case, but today
I'm trying not to mark our first episode as explicit. If we want to keep it open.
Right.
No promises for the future.
Right.
I think you're talking about this already, though, so maybe I'll kind of punt the next one to you to talk about. But you mentioned some of your other roles, but how do you think they will show up in our episodes? Like you mentioned being a therapist and a professor now. Obviously, you're an entrepreneur with your business. How do you expect that to show up?
Well, I feel like you have to be a jack of all trades. So there's tech, right? We got to figure that out. Marketing. Yeah. So we have to just take all of that forward and figure out how to do stuff, which we're pretty good at. We are pretty good at that.
I like
Working in nonprofit for years with limited resources, you just have to figure stuff out.
Oh, yeah. We learned a lot of different jobs.
We really did.
And we're still learning now.
We really are. What kind of conversations light you up?
Oh, that's a great question. I love conversations where we talk about sort of the inner gooey stuff. Like, that's my favorite. That's like the best way for me to put it, is like opening up to, you know, the middle, or as, Brene Brown talks about, like messy middle, or like your gooey center, like things that sort of get us to think of things in a new way. I love conversations like that. I love to hear other people's perspectives on things. I'm lit up by humor, like you mentioned before, and just getting to laugh together. And I find funny people to be the best people.
You're pretty funny yourself. Just saying.
Thank you. I try, but sometimes, I try my best. But I do. Those are like some of my favorite conversations. And I'm definitely somebody who, I have close friends that I'm kind of diving deep with and analyzing things all the time with. And so those are the conversations I feel like really bring me to life and help me look at things in reference to myself in a new way. I think that anytime we're sort of stuck in like who we think we are, what we believe, or what we know about something, there's always more. There's always something different to be discovered. I think there's always the possibility of change at all times. And so that's something that in conversation kind of, definitely lights me up to dive into those types of conversations.
Yeah, and you definitely help me see new perspectives.
You do the same for me, though. I feel like it's part of the cool part about us having different ways of being in the world, but also aligning so much in so many things. Like, and not that that is what has to be for us. I don't feel like that's a thing that it is necessary, but it just happens to be that way. But because, we live in our own experiences, but then like share those with each other, I think we can broaden perspective for one another, which is a really cool part of it.
It is really cool. The other thing, other conversations that light me up are the conversations that just happen with ease and that flow and that go from one topic to the next topic. And you don't even know that an hour has gone by, but you've just had this like deep, meaningful connection and you feel warm and gooey on the inside.
Exactly. That's fun. I like that. And I think that's exactly why we're doing this. I think that our goal, and you may hear, we're not going to be perfect, and we're not going to heavily edit this to make it sound perfect either. And we've talked a lot about how both of us are, way more comfortable just talking rather than like trying to read a script or have like a lot of points that we plan to talk about ahead of time. So, but we hope that that translates to others. And, as we have other people on to talk as well, that's a part of what we want to do, is make this a very conversational experience, and just where we're free to kind of say how we're feeling, what we're thinking, not necessarily do a ton of prep ahead, and really get to some deep places. I think that helps you get there.
Totally. I feel like a core value that we both share is authenticity and genuineness, and wanting to always feel safe to bring our full self into every room and make sure that we create safety for those around us. And we're hoping that we, through our conversations and the vulnerability that we bring to our conversations with each other, we can create that safety for listeners as well.
Yeah.
And our guests.
Beautiful. Yeah.
And, we do plan to have guests on going forward that will just share in the conversations with us in the future.
Yeah. So since you're talking about values already, I feel like that's an important thing for us to reflect on in the bit of time that we have for, everyone to sort of understand the importance of what we're about. What would you say, like, how would you define authenticity, like in work, in life, and what you want to bring to this? Like, what does that look like?
I think it is showing up as you are. I think, and what I mean by that is, I think so often society tells you to be a certain way and to act a certain way, and we put on our mask and we walk into that space and we're one way in one room and we're a different way in another room. And and we're not fully ourselves in any rooms.
Mm-hmm.
And what I think is important is when you integrate
Mm-hmm.
all of yourself and you recognize, who am I,
Mm-hmm.
and who do I want to be in every room,
Yeah.
and then show up as that person in every single room, no matter who's in the room. I
Yeah.
think that's authentic.
Yep.
Do you know what I mean? Like,
Mm-hmm.
because I feel like sometimes people show up in one way for this person because they want to impress them, and sometimes they show up in this way for this other person. And I think that if you can integrate all of yourselves and who you are, your sports person, your intellectual, nerdy self,
Mm-hmm.
your, mom self, your business entrepreneur self, all of those selves into one person, and then always show up as that person in every room.
Right. Yeah. Like all the identities we talked about in the beginning. How do you carry all of that forward and have the confidence and the wherewithal and self-awareness
Yes.
to bring yourself in that form wherever you go?
And courage. I think it takes courage, especially in this society right now.
Mm-hmm.
And all the othering and, divisiveness that's happening to do so.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Especially because I think so much of when you started talking initially about sort of some defining, moments, but also experiences in your past job and sort of like what it's like to step into moving into a different direction that isn't as fear driven or fear,
Mhm.
led in some ways, I guess. I don't know the best way to say it, but I think a lot of the reason we do this is fear,
Yeah.
why we push back against our authentic selves, why we don't show up as we are. And I think there's also a ton of really real reasons people don't or can't a lot of the time based on identities and based on safety. And yeah, to have like the understanding of that and have the spaces and the people where you can do that, can practice that and understand and feel that integration. I was thinking that exact word before you said it, like just all of it coming together, because when you experience that, I think it does feel different than any other feeling. You absolutely can feel your best self, but also that vulnerability of not holding back or not masking. So I love how you describe that.
Thank you.
We are almost done with this episode. So we just had a couple more fun questions, but maybe we should share where we're recording, what we have, what our setup is like. We don't do video yet, but maybe one day you'll get to see us doing this.
Mm-hmm.
But we record, so we have an office where we both have our private practices out of, and we also work for our business out of. So we kind of just have a makeshift space. This is not a studio. And we might have some cool equipment, but we definitely kind of DIY this, and we'll hope that it goes well. And since we just started, I'm sure we're going to have plenty of stories going forward about what this will be like for us, but that's the setup we have. And our last piece, I think, will be fun because I think we love to I think each of our episodes, we want to be able to share something exciting or fun or like something to lend to somebody else. And we'll probably be asking our guests about this stuff. But do you have any favorite podcasts that you listen to already or hosts that you enjoy that inspire you?
Well, I love to listen to We Can Do Hard Things podcast.
Yep, Glennon Doyle.
She's a good one.
Very good one.
What about you?
I love that podcast as well. I'd probably say that's my most listened to and longest listened to podcast, just because just like you kind of find meaning in every episode, no matter what the topic is. I'm like, I'm just going to listen to this. I don't even know what's going to happen, but I want to hear it. The other one I love is Good Hang with Amy Poehler. I don't know what she is someone that I find her funny. I obviously she's a funny person. But the way the podcast is I just love it. She brings guests on who are actors, musicians, and what she does is she asks other people in their life to give her questions to ask them. So you hear like the very beginning, her calling somebody else who knows them, and whether it's a family member or whatever, and gets questions from them to then ask that person about live, which is cool because she doesn't kind of know everything about people and their more intimate personal stuff. But it's always hilarious. Like, and I love something that just brings lightness. You know, I do a lot of listening to things that I find are going to like expand, you know, my knowledge of things and go really deep. And then sometimes I'm like, I just need to listen to something that is going to make me laugh. And yeah, I still learn about other people, but it's more in a very lighthearted, fun way. So
Totally. That's why I sometimes get really stuck on reels.
oh yeah, so many things. But I'm sure as we go on, we'll share more tidbits about what we are listening to, what we're watching, what we're loving, and hopefully we can inspire one another with that.
Yeah, sounds good.
Awesome. Well, thank you for listening. We hope you enjoyed our first stab at what our podcast is going to bring. And we hope you stick around and keep listening.
Thank you.